Both before we dive into the service dogs that you have with you, your backstory.
I was deployed over to Iraq in '03 and '04. I had lost two of my comrades that made me hit rock bottom, and I attempted suicide.
I spent 8 years in the Navy. I was diagnosed with, they call MST, it's military sexual trauma. They kind of tried to destroy my career, my reputation, and that's kind of what led me into getting into a service dog and using that as part of the therapy.
We're going to get to all of that in a hot second, but first I want you to know the Ryan Leckey Show is sponsored by the Vanity Lounge in Pittston, PA, northeastern Pennsylvania's premier medical spa. Visit them at vanityloungenepa.com, and when booking your first appointment and service, use code Leckey to save 15%. I'm a huge fan of the owner, Tia. She takes care of this mug all the time, so check them out. Hey, friends. It's the Ryan Leckey Show. Welcome to the Ryan Leckey Show. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Ryan Leckey Show. Okay, so with us on the podcast couch today, I have Jeff and Mel. They are with an amazing nonprofit organization known as Stand With Me, a assistance dog team training. So today's podcast, and who you can't really see right now, they're kind of hanging out on the floor, are Mel's service dog. We have Goose in the house, along with Jeff's service dog, Abby. We're kind of going to unpack it like how you guys ended up with the service dog. But the biggest thing we wanted to do this podcast, everywhere you look across different headlines, news outlets, social media, there are more and more animals popping up on planes, trains, right? As it could be service dogs or, emotional support dog or therapy dog. There's so many different types of dogs. So we're going to dispel the myths, tell you what the facts are, and really break it all down. So we have Jeff and Mel. And really quick, by the way, these two are like the best behaved dogs that I've come across in a long time. And this is Goose and Abby.
Yep.
All right. Are you guys ready for this?
Yeah,
I'm secretly hoping they just like pounce on the couch. But we wanted to do this. So first, let's talk about the credibility of the organization you're with, the nonprofit. So who can tell me about Stand With Me? Because we really want to do the breakdown about different types of service animals. But let's talk about the nonprofit in general.
Yeah, I can tell you about that. Stand With Me is a nonprofit that was put together in 2016 by Murph McMahon, which is the CEO and trainer. She has professional dog training experience over 40 years, and she was approached by several veterans that wanted to have a service dog because of their mental health disabilities. So, and that's how the organization started. It's a 501c3, an official nonprofit, so we only work off of donations and grants, and we help the veterans train a dog. If they have one, they can train their own dog. If not, we'll get them a dog. And they train the dog alongside a professional trainer. It's not the other way around where the organization trains the dog and gives them to the handler. That's not the case because they want the bond to form between the dog and the handler throughout the training process.
Right. It's immersive. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're both veterans?
Yes.
And tell us about where you served, and because that's kind of the backstory of how you ended up with a service dog, and then we'll do the breakdown of the different types of animals, because I think there's so much confusion around this.
Yeah, and just to back up, Stand With Me is an organization that only works with veterans. And we're hopefully soon we'll be working with first responders as well, but we're only a veteran-based organization right now.
Based out of where?
Binghamton.
Binghamton, okay.
Yeah, we work with veterans within a 60-minute radius of Binghamton, so 60 to 90 minutes depending. So.
And tell me both, before we dive into the service dogs that you have with you, your backstory, the branches of the military you served in, and what led up to all of this. And thank you again for your service to both of you.
So I spent 8 years in the Navy, and during the last couple of years that I served, and we may use some acronyms here, so just throw it if I'm not
If you start firing the acronyms, I'll be like, what does that mean, Mel?
So to make a long story short, in my last couple of years of active duty, I got out of active duty kind of on a bad note. I spent kind of 18 months. I was diagnosed with, they call MST, it's military sexual trauma. And that's when they diagnosed me after I got out. I'll get into that, but during the time that I spent there, I really had a difficult time. I spent years being sexually harassed, I was being sexually assaulted, and at the point where I got comfortable to report this, I basically got shut down. Sorry, it gets a little emotional for me, but I basically got shut down. Instead of them giving me help, they kind of pushed it under the rug. They kind of tried to destroy my career, my reputation. I literally had threats made against me. And so when I got out, I was not happy. I wasn't proud to be a veteran. I was embarrassed about it, and I really didn't process everything that was happening to me. So, of course, like a lot of people do, I kind of started dealing with it with the wrong behaviors, unhealthy behaviors. And it took me 4 years in the civilian life to finally go and ask and get the help. And that's kind of what led me into getting into a service dog and using that as part of the therapy to help me heal.
Wow. And you've been having a service dog now how many years?
So Goose is actually my second service dog. So I've been through I started with him as a puppy in the Stand With Me program. Prior to that, I kind of did things on my own. It was really difficult. I'm glad I found the organization, because trying to do it on your own, trying to learn and not have the support and resources was kind of also made it hard in that trying to heal process, as well as the organization is kind of therapeutic in that we are veterans. We kind of share the same experiences. We get together for these group lessons. And yeah, like I said, Goose started with me as, he knows his name, as an 8-week-old puppy, and Stand With Me actually helped me find him through a breeder too, to start the program.
Wow. And for those who are just listening and not watching the visual part of the podcast, Goose is like happy as could be, the tail's wagging. He has his paw on my foot.
He is a typical Labrador Retriever. He's an English Lab, but yeah, he has quite the disposition of overly friendly dog.
And then Abby is with Jeff. But Jeff, before you tell me more about Abby, tell me about your story.
I joined the Army Reserves in 2000 and was with the 351st Military Police out of Ocala, Florida. I was born and raised in Florida, moved up here in 2016, and, or no, I'm sorry, 2006. Back up a little bit. So I was deployed over to Iraq in 03 and 04, and we served 18 months in Iraq. I lost 2 of my comrades while we were over there. My team leader, I lost the day before we left to go home, about a week before Father's Day. And that really got to me, along the lines of everything else that I endured over there. We came back, and I got out of the reserves in 2008 and kind of did my own therapy, like Mel was saying, just to try and survive. And it's hard for veterans to ask for help because we're so used to doing everything ourselves. And we're used to having a routine set up. Obviously in the military, we're told what to do, when to do, and how to do it. And whenever we got out, it was completely different. So about 2006, I moved up here to New York, or actually New York, we're in Pennsylvania. And I met my son's mother. He was born in 2007, and skip along to around 2009. I started going downhill and have anger management, anger issues, really bad anger issues, and everything. And to the point where I had a road rage incident with my son in the truck that almost didn't turn out very well. From that point on, he didn't want to talk to me or spend time with me or anything. That made me hit rock bottom, and I attempted suicide in about 2010 or 11, and I kept on going, and then 2018 rolls around, and something my dad had passed away, and that got back to me again, and I hit rock bottom again and tried to commit suicide again, and that led me to Murph and the vet center in Binghamton, where I started getting hardcore into counseling, therapy, and everything like that. And they introduced me to Stand With Me. And so perfect timing came along. A friend of mine was about to have puppies with 2 German Shepherds. I picked her up on my birthday that year and started training her 8 weeks later.
How tough was it for both of you to realize that you really needed help? I mean, obviously, Jeff, you obviously shared you tried to take your own life twice. at what point did you realize a service dog was an option for you? Because I can't imagine. I mean, at what point did you say I need therapy, and then
Well,
this is also maybe where I need to
everything
head?
wasn't working. Nothing was working for me. And I was just showing up, going through the motions, and I wasn't committed to it like I am with Abby. Well, training Abby is therapy in itself. Whenever I was training her, and we still train her every day, but that was therapy in itself, and I had to make a commitment to another living being, and take care of her, raise her from a puppy. I got her when she was 8 weeks old, and her unconditional love also changed my world around. And service dogs, I mean, people that have pets know that dogs are unconditional, but service dogs are specifically task trained to assist you. And with her being by my side 24/7, and I talk to her more than I talk to anybody else.
I guess the question is when, people hear this, they see this, right? You're going to therapy, which I think is so important, right? I guess, was it tough to say, wow, a service dog might be able to help? Because I think, some people might not realize there's benefits there. Did people ever question you when you said, I'm going to move forward with this, I'm going to get a service dog? Were you ever skeptical, either one of you, to say, like, how is this really going to help me? I think, Mel, you mentioned before we did this podcast, for you it was nightmares, right? And tell me about some of the other stuff you were dealing with. And were you ever skeptical that a service dog would work?
Actually, for me, the hardest part about accepting the service dog was admitting that there was something wrong. And at first I kind of thought that the service dog was like that scarlet letter. I mean, now I'm putting my disability out there and everybody could see it. It's not something, it's something I was hiding. And now by having a service dog out there and people see you have a service dog, like you have a service dog for a reason. So it kind of opened up that door of like, am I ready for this? Are people going to question me? Are they going to confront me about it? I love dogs. I've always had dogs, and I know just the benefit that you get from having a dog. I think it's medically proven just petting a dog will reduce your blood pressure. But yeah, it was just kind of admitting that here now I'm carrying around this disability with me, and I'm showing the world. It's become obvious now that everybody could see that now I need this dog. So I think that was the hardest part for me.
And we should point out Goose is trying to take over the show while he's
definitely
here.
Trying to take over the show over here.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing we want to just pull the curtain back on. What is the difference between a service dog, an emotional support animal, and a therapy dog? Because there's a lot of confusion around this.
Yeah. Whenever I whenever I went to talk about getting a service dog, I did a lot of research on it, and online, read books, talked to people, and everything. And a service dog is a major commitment, and it changes your life because you're put in the center of attention everywhere you go with them. Obviously, there's a dog, some people want to pet it, but getting back to your question, the difference between a service dog, a therapy dog, and an emotional support animal. A service dog is the only dog that has federal rights by federal law to have access anywhere that their handler can go. They are specifically task trained to assist a person with a disability. The law that governs service dogs is the American with Disabilities Act. And everything in there is outlined. A service dog, like I said, they can go anywhere their handler can go. They are the only dog that has that legal right to do that. A therapy dog is a completely different dog. A therapy dog is trained to basically give support to several people. Like for instance, they go to nursing homes, they go to hospitals, they go to courtrooms, they go to schools, anywhere where they feel the need that a dog would be beneficial for them to show up and at least just provide emotional support and just be there for them. And they are specifically trained to do that with socialization skills and public outings and stuff like that. But they have to be invited to those facilities. They just can't go.
Like a service dog could.
Yeah,
Got it.
they have to be invited. An emotional support animal has no training, or an emotional support dog. They don't have to have any training at all. Their sole purpose is to provide emotional support for the person that they're with. And they are only legally allowed, or they have legal rights when it comes to housing. And that is it. A landlord cannot deny a person with a emotional support animal whenever they want to move into an apartment where there's no dog policy or there's a specific breed policy or anything like that. They cannot allow that. So the dog has the right to move in with the person.
Do you both feel service animals maybe get a bad rap in the day and age where you're walking on airplanes and people have roosters as their support animal, or an emotional support alligator we saw in the news lately? Or do you think maybe people are questioning things that they don't understand? This is a touchy thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think
I'll respond to it.
when we don't ever fake shame or call out fake service animals.
Because now there's a lot of people who order a vest online and say, I have a therapy dog.
Oh, it's easy. You can go on Amazon and just
Right.
buy. There are companies that will give you cards that say, you're registered, and it's important to point out that there is no registry. There is no federal registry that recognizes service animals. It doesn't exist.
Wow.
But it makes it hard for us then when we go someplace. We may go to a restaurant or something, and they'll question us, is it a service dog? And we're like, yes, it is. And they're like, well, can I see documentation? And then we try to explain to them, there is no such thing, there's no registration. And they'll be like, well, the last person that came in here, they had documentation that they showed us, so where's yours? So it makes it hard. It makes it hard for us because we're legit trying to do something, but people are very misinformed. They don't really understand what the laws are. And I'm not a confrontational person. Having a service animal has actually helped me find my voice. But it's very upsetting to me, like when I get denied or have to deal with confrontations.
So I guess the question is, you explain the difference between a service dog, an emotional support animal, and a therapy dog.
Mm-hmm.
What are the rights as business owners? Because if a service dog you can take that the handler can take anywhere with them, what are the rights of a business owner that you think, sometimes gets confusing? Because you guys educate business owners on, here's what you can and can't do when it comes to service dogs.
Yes. The American with Disabilities Act is also set up, the service dog portion of it also set up to help the business owners as well. Whenever we walk into a business with our dog, a manager, whoever from the business, can only ask us two questions. Is this a service dog, and what task is it trained to do to help you with your disability? Those are the only two questions they can ask. They can't have us do the task or ask about our disability or anything, because that gets into violation of HIPAA, not HIPAA, but ADA law, because it's just an invasion of our privacy is what it is. And the ADA is set up to help veterans, anybody with a disability, to be as least, what's the word I'm trying to say, as least interfering as possible whenever they have their dog with them. Their dog is trained. The dogs go through a lot of obedience training, a lot of socialization training, and everything. They're normally not like this.
You wouldn't know with Goose today. He and Abby are actually friends when they're not in their
so if you're
service,
just listening, we have two dogs who haven't seen each other in a while. They're good friends.
He kind of wants to play.
And Goose is very excited to see Abby. So that's all the panting and all the tail wagging you hear in the background.
Whenever we're out in public and we go out in the stores and stuff, she's right by my side the whole time, and she stays right near me.
Tell me the tasks that your dogs are trained to help you with each. Let's start with you, Jeff, with Abby.
My dog is trained to do deep pressure therapy. Whenever I have a panic attack, I'm either standing or sitting. She'll force me to sit down, and she'll get in my lap and apply the deep pressure therapy, kind of bring me back to reality. And she'll lick my face and all that other stuff to just kind of kick me back into reality. The other task he's trained to do is called personal space assistance, which is basically, we're not really allowed to say it, but it's crowd control. Whenever I'm out in a crowded place, I can place her in different positions around me, depending on where people are at, to get a little distance between them and me, because I'm not very good in crowded places. So those are the 2 tasks that she's trained to do. And she's also trained to do other stuff. But for the main reasons for the American Disabilities Act, those are the 2 tasks that she's trained to do.
And Mel, how about you?
And Goose does the same with the personal space assistance. I think we used to be called something else, but they thought that it wasn't as friendly to say it that way. But he also does episode interruption for me. I have had in the past go into like a dissociative state where I'm kind of, I don't really know how to explain it unless you've been there, but I kind of space out, I guess would be the way to say it. And like Abby does, he can paw at me. He'll lick my face or lick my hand. Just try to get me back into the here and present.
What are some fun facts or interesting facts about service dogs people don't know that you rattle them off and it blows their mind? Because dogs are so intelligent, their hearing, their smell, right?
Well, fun facts is, dogs, they have that deep sense of smell. And a lot of people aren't aware that they can actually sense things going on in your body, like low blood pressure, chemical changes in your body. They can actually sense that or smell that. Like, for instance, a diabetic. Whenever people go into a diabetic coma, they get that alcohol breath on their smell, the alcohol smell on their breath. Dogs can sense that, and they can smell that just the instance, and they can react to it. They're trained to react to it.
Wow. It's just crazy. And I think the interesting thing is how they become such a big part of your life. Tell me about the training, because it's not like Abby and Goose walked into your life and they were how they are today, right?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to train a service dog? Because Mel, this is your second service dog.
And we started with, so my first service dog, I did owner training, which was, I said, really difficult, not having the resources and the training and the guides. But I didn't start working with him till he was already 2 years old. With Goose, I started in this program at 8 weeks old. Stand With Me actually helped me get him through a breeder. And he graduated after a year, which is not really typical. It usually kind of takes a bit longer than that. But every now and then you get dogs that just have a really good disposition and really good willingness to work. And having kind of had some prior handling experience, we were able to a little bit accelerate through it. Plus, I kind of put a lot of intense time into it in the first few months, so I was literally driving up to New York like every Friday. I was up there. We were going through 1 or 2 hour lessons, doing the public access training, and I think it kind of tapered off to maybe every other week, then to kind of once a month.
Would you say it's a full year of immersive training, or it's just 2 years, or it's ongoing?
It's kind of different for every veteran. That's why I think this program is so great, because when you suffer from PTSD or MST or whatever your symptoms are, we're all kind of different. It's not a, one size fits all kind of therapy, put everybody in the same box. And that's another reason why I like using a service dog rather than some of the traditional programs that I tried to go through with the VA. So some of the veterans are in the program a little bit longer just because of certain health issues they have or because of their schedules. Sometimes their dogs take a little longer to train. And it's kind of what you go home and put into it too. It takes a lot of homework. Once she sends you home that day, you're not done. You're still continuing to go. And we still go once a month for the group lessons. We do refresher training. He just did his refresher training course, so there's like an evaluation course they go through. He just completed that last month. Research. So yeah, our research course. So.
And looking at your dogs, both of them now have their vest on, right? Do not touch, service dog at work. Why is it so important, and what would your message be? Because I think when people see these dogs, right, and they're so cute, they're cuddly, right? Why is it so important not to disturb a service dog? Try to ask the person if you could pet it, because it's like when their vest is on, they're supposed to know they're working. And does that, I mean, what would you say to people? Why is that so important not to bother the dog when they're at work with the owner?
Well, when their vest is on, the dogs are trained to know if they have the vest on, they're working, and or a leash or a collar. In Abby's case, she has a service dog on a collar also. But to answer your question, why, the best thing to do when you see a service dog in public is to ignore them. They have a job to do. And not for me or Melissa really per se, but a service dog is for anybody with a medical disability or physical disability. And some people, like I said, have seizures, they're epileptic, they're diabetic or whatever. And if you're out in public and you're interacting with a service dog, they're not paying attention to their handler. And that could make them miss a trigger that could be life-threatening to the handler.
Wow.
So that's why I try and educate people that just leave them alone. They have a job to do. And I know it's hard because everybody sees a dog, they want to pet a dog.
Does that same rule apply, though, would you say, to therapy dogs?
Therapy dogs are different.
The exact opposite.
Yeah. Therapy dogs want the attention. That's their job, to get the attention, to have people come and pet them and interact with them. A service dog is only working for one person, and that's the handler. A therapy dog is working for several people. And then most of the support animals only working for one dog, which is the handler as well. But a therapy dog, like I said, they give support to a group of people, which can interact with them, play with them, or whatever. And the service dog, like I said, Abby goes literally everywhere with me. She's with me 24/7. She's been on planes, trains, boats, and everything else.
And I think too, like when we're in public and people don't realize sometimes, one, it makes us very uncomfortable when you just start asking questions, right? Like nobody really wants to start talking about their personal medical stuff. And also, like, we get approached a lot. So you may come up to me and just innocently say, hey, that's a great dog. Like, you know, what do they do? Or like, you're just genuinely trying to get information and you're not meaning anything harmful. But like 10 people have just done that to me and I'm already aggravated and I just want to get to the milk aisle and grab my milk and go home. But it's taken me an hour to get through the grocery store, which should have been like a 15-minute task. So I think people don't realize that. They're like, oh, I'm just genuinely being curious, but you wouldn't run up to somebody and ask them why they're using a cane. Like, oh, that's a great cane. Is that made out of like redwood? Like, where did you get it from?
People don't think about that.
Yeah,
what kind of wheelchair is that?
Right, like it just kind of can makes me feel really uncomfortable sometimes when people keep approaching me. Or my favorite is when they're like, "Oh, is it your dog? You don't look like you have a disability." And I'm like, "Well, thank you. I don't feel like it some days because I have a dog." But or people who get angry when you tell them no.
Yeah, I get approached a lot, and I get approached a lot and say, "Well, who are you training your dog for? Who are you training the dog for?" Well, she's my dog. A lot of people don't understand that invisible disabilities are just as debilitating as a physical disability, or they can be. And that's what service dogs, that's their job, is to help the handler mitigate that disability. And everybody thinks of a service dog, they think, well, a seeing eye dog or somebody with a wheelchair, and that's it. So it's like, no, there are a lot of people that have physical and mental disabilities that are invisible, that they don't realize. And it's frustrating because people, I was accosted the other day, and so this guy's bringing his dog into Walmart. Why is he bringing his dog in there? I'll turn around, well, she's a service dog. Oh, no, she's not. You're not disabled. Wow. I just turned around and walked away. I didn't engage. But it happens more frequently than people realize.
You know, you talk, Jeff, specifically about how Abby's been, you know, the planes, trains, automobiles with you all the time. Do service dogs, do you think they ever get sad, or do they get time off of work to play? Like, how do you answer that to people?
Well,
because they're on a lot.
Clearly these two get to play together.
I would say that service dogs are probably more spoiled than a regular pet, because they get all the attention from their handler and they get all the things they need. She's better than I do. but she gets the regular vet appointments and everything, and a lot of people just get pets just as a novelty. Well, no, service dogs aren't a novelty.
I think to add on to that, I think like we're kind of more, part of what we do in the training is checking their nails, checking their teeth, checking their gums, checking that they're groomed well. So we kind of have a more intimate kind of look at them to know if there's something wrong with the dog, or they're not behaving normally, they're sick, or they're off or something that day. We have to know not to work them. You know, where I'm not going to take my dog out to do service dog work if he's not feeling good, or you know, I don't want to be out in public if he's got a tummy ache or something where, there's going to be, there might be a mess. So we kind of have to pay a little more closer attention to their health and well-being as well to get I think as Murph says it, like you want to train them for the longest possible working life that they can have, and recognizing the signs and, when not to work them or when, might be time to retire.
How do you know when a dog is fit to be a service dog? Is it a type of breed? And I should say, too, sometimes not all service dogs are a fit for their handlers, right? So that's sort of two questions.
Yeah, service dogs, American with Disabilities Act states that any dog can be a service dog. Any breed can be a service dog. The thing is, they have to be physically able to do the tasks that they are trained to do. Obviously, you wouldn't get a Chihuahua doing
mobility assistance
for a 200-pound guy or anything like that. But any breed can be one. They go through a temperament test whenever through our program, anyways. First thing our trainer does is do a temperament test with them to see if they are like they are now. They're just calm.
Took them a bit to settle down.
They're just calm and excited, but they also want to work. They have to have that working drive to be trained, and they have to be obviously trainable, and they cannot be aggressive at all. Service dogs are not aggressive. Any aggression is an automatic disqualification for a service dog. Reason being is because they are out in public so much and they have interaction with other people. They cannot have any immediate reaction to any other animal, any other person, or anything like that. That's where the training gets involved at.
And the ADA even specifically says like they cannot be protection or bite trained dogs. You can't dual certify a dog in protection and bite and have them do service dog work. So it's actually defined, isn't it, under the ADA that.
Yeah, that's interesting. But coming back even to what you guys, when you were talking earlier about differentiating between service dogs, emotional support animal, and therapy dogs, right? There was one story that made a lot of headlines lately, right? I believe, don't quote me on this, a gentleman was denied entrance to a baseball game with his emotional support alligator. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I saw the article on Facebook, and
I think I sent it to you.
Because some people, right away, right, you read the comments on social media, and people say, how can an alligator be your emotional support animal?
I think partly I feel like the media hypes things up or dropped the ball on this. Because I think the gentleman actually came out later and said, hey, I wasn't trying, and I don't know how true, but I wasn't trying to take him into the game. I was there for a player meet and greet. My friend had tickets. We went in. And he said the stadium did the right thing by denying him access. He didn't fight it. But I think, and I read some of the comments, and people were like either so for it, they're like, oh, this alligator should have went in, or they were so against it. There was no middle ground. And I think that's where the media kind of fails in distinguishing that difference, where the headline is a grabber. This man is denied access for he has depression and disabilities, and they deny him access. And that's the first thing people get really emotional about. But the media kind of uses a lot of those terms interchangeable: emotional support, therapy, service dog, and I don't think they put the time into understanding or quoting actually the direct laws of it, just trying to grab our attention.
Yeah, like Melissa was saying, that like I said, they interchange the three working dog descriptions, and they're not interchangeable. They're three completely separate lines of working dogs.
So you guys mentioned earlier the rights if somebody has a service dog, right? That can be with them, can go anywhere the handler can go. But what do you want business owners to know? Because I don't want people to think this is all one-sided, right? Business owners still have a right with service animals, and what are those rights for business owners if they feel like, rules or laws are being broken?
Well, Jeff talked about the questions earlier, yeah.
Yeah, you have people that fraudulently use their dogs as service dogs all the time.
When they're not
service dogs. You can tell a service dog by the way they are trained and the way that the handler reacts with them. The American with Disabilities Act states that there is no certification for service dogs. There is no licensing for service dogs. They have to be trained. The only thing that they have to be trained for is task trained to help with their handler's disability. And they cannot be aggressive, but they have to be potty trained or housebroken, and they can't be aggressive. They can't be barking all the time whenever they're in a store. And you get people that bring their little ankle biters in and put them in their shopping cart and they're barking at everybody.
So,
That's not a service dog.
I think that the like wording for the ADA says they can actually deny the animal access if it's disrupting.
Business owners can
So
deny.
business owners are protected also under the ADA.
It's
So-
whenever the ADA states if the dog is disrupting the flow of business,
and can't
they
be
can
controlled by
and
the
cannot be
handler.
controlled by the handler. They can ask the dog to leave.
So if
even
you're-
if it's a legitimate service dog.
Like if you're in a movie theater and this dog is barking constantly at the screen, the business owner can ask that person to remove the dog. Now they can't deny the person access. They have to still allow that person to come back into the movie, but they can ask them to remove the dog.
Yeah, and like I say, even if it's a legitimate service dog that is not trained properly, and it's disrupting the flow of business, they can ask that person to take that dog out of
Because
the
after all, they
business.
are dogs,
Yeah.
and they have their days.
Yeah, they do.
Like him getting settled in today. They have their moments, they're animals. They mess up, we mess up. I think the other one is if it fundamentally alters the services.
If it fundamentally
which is a very
alters
gray.
the operations of the business, then they can. And going more along the lines of businesses, service dogs are not allowed in certain places just because of what
Safety or-
safety issues were. Like for instance, if you go into a hospital, a service dog is not allowed in a room that is like an operating room that is a sterile
A
environment.
sterile environment.
They are allowed in an emergency room because it's not a sterile environment. But a sterile environment like a burn unit, they can't go in or anything like that. And if it fundamentally disrupts the business flow, like I guess
Zoos.
certain
areas of zoos
certain areas of
sometimes.
zoos where the animals will react to the dogs. You don't really want them to go in places like that. But and obviously if they can go in hotels and stuff, but they can't go in the pool because of health issues or health laws or anything like that.
As veterans and people who have, you guys, as you were open about it, right? Counseling, getting a service dog. Does it infuriate you when you see people buy a vest online and throw it on their dog that has not gone through all this training?
It does, but I've gotten to the point where I just say it happens. I mean, the only thing that I'm worried about with people that do this is they have an untrained dog 9 times out of 10. My concern whenever I go out with Abby, everywhere I go with her, especially into a store, is that my dog, a trained service dog, will be attacked by another dog. And if that happens, she won't be able to work. Because even if it's something that she's not physically hurt, but her mentality has changed to where she will be alert to every other animal from that point on, and she won't be able to focus on me. And that is my nightmare for me.
And I can, I have some personal experience. So before I got Goose, I had another dog, Argos, who was my prospective service dog in training. And we had an incident. We were running one morning and an off-leash dog came up and attacked us. I got in between it. I actually ended up getting bit by my own dog. Long story short, after that, he just became very reactive to other dogs. He never really liked other dogs, but it wasn't to the point where he just became very protective, reactive. I worked with Murph for months trying to see if we could change his behaviors, and finally had to make that pragmatic decision that he wasn't going to be a good service animal. Ethically, I cannot work a dog that potentially would be aggressive towards other dogs for just the reason that Jeff's saying, when people just take their dog out and there could be that incident. And I don't want to be the person who causes that incident. So it was hard for me. It was difficult. People even gave me a lot of hard time about it.
Because for rehoming the dog.
For rehoming him. But they don't understand that he was a great pet. He's a great pet. I still keep in touch with who he's with now. But he just didn't have the right disposition to be a service dog.
Before we wrap this up, I think the takeaway that I learned from you guys, right, as hard as it is not to be like, oh my God, look at your dog. The best thing we can do as the public when we see someone with a service dog is ignore the dog.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get in and out of the grocery store and get your milk in 15 minutes rather than an hour.
And we don't mind people coming up and say, oh, that's a beautiful dog, and then move on.
Yeah.
That's fine. And we'll say, okay, thank you. I mean, I have people do that all the time, but if people want to actually stop me and start talking about their dogs.
Yeah.
And everything.
Oh God, the dead dog story.
Yeah,
That's
there
the one
was.
I hear all the
I would
time.
stop. I would stop for at least 15 minutes one time talking to somebody, and it's like, luckily I was able to educate them about service dogs and why they don't. They just need to ignore them.
And
But I think you-
it's,
go ahead.
If someone says no, just accept no. That's the hardest part. Like when I was at the VA the other day, and a guy asked me, he's like, "Can I pet your dog?" I'm like, "No, he's working," and he got mad. Like he got mad at me about it. He's like, "Why?" Because it's distracting. That you know. But just accept no. If someone says no, don't. Then just accept it and move on.
There are handlers that will let their dogs interact with people, and that's their choice. But I mean, Stand With Me, they're trained. We are trained not to let our dogs interact with other people because they have a job to do. Now, whenever she's not working, she has a rest off. She can interact with other dogs, other people. That's fine. I mean, if we go to a park and she's a dog, she's the dog. So they're not service dogs 24/7. They have their own playtime and their own.
Even in our training
thing to do.
sessions, at the end of the group lessons, they get playtime together.
So the
Murph
vests
has-
come off.
Murph
Yeah.
has a pond. They go
Yeah.
swimming. They're yeah. It's like a free for all. The vests come off and they're like the gates are out.
But they know the difference too. When the vest comes off, they go hog wild. Whenever the vests go back on, they calm down and do their job.
They're off the clock. And what advice would you give to someone considering getting involved with service dogs, whether it's a handler or somebody who actually needs a service dog? What would you tell them?
I would say that do
Know
your
the
research.
ADA.
Do your research. Know the laws, because you're going to be asked a million times, and also know that a service dog is a full-time commitment. It's not just okay. I did a training. We're not going to train anymore.
We're always
Abby will
training.
be 5 in December. I've had her since she was 8 weeks old, and I've graduated from the program 2 years now, and we're still training every day. And every time you go out with your dog, you're training because there's something new that comes up that they haven't done before. So it's always training.
Now, the veterans you guys train with, the other veterans, part of your organization, Stand With Me, does everyone have similar disabilities, or are they all different?
Stand With Me mainly focuses on mental health disabilities. There are veterans in our program that have physical disabilities as well, but they have also mental health disabilities. The reason why we focus on mental health disabilities is the VA currently will only help out financially a person with a physical or medical disability. They will not do any financial assistance or get a service dog for a person with a mental health disability. And that is current now in the VA, with the exception of the PAWS Act, which is put in place to where it's in its testing or beta program
Pilot
now,
program, yeah.
where there are only 5 hospitals in the whole United States that are actively beta testing service dogs of people with mental health disabilities. And once that is established, and if it becomes a protocol, then it will be open to all people with mental health disabilities. But for now, there's no.
And I think it's important too to say that it's not always the right therapy for somebody. Just like the kind of therapies that I was trying at the VA weren't working for me. Again, going back to that, now I have a service dog. It brings a lot of attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that can actually be worse for some veterans, getting that additional attention. So and like Jeff said, it's a commitment. It's work. It's not just, oh, like these dogs were great. We put so much time into them, and
Well, especially when I hear 5 years you've had Abby and you're still training.
oh yeah, every day. Like there's certain things like we don't encounter escalators a lot. It's just not places that we go. So there's times where we just do retraining. We'll go to the mall just to ride the escalator because we haven't seen one in a while, and I don't want him to be scared of it if we're going somewhere that might have it. So yeah, we're always constantly refresher training and learning new things, new surfaces, new distractions, new noises, all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff.
And like Melissa said, a service dog is not for everybody. And once you get a service dog, you also need to know that you will be the center of attention everywhere you go because of your dog.
And Stand With Me has a pretty rigorous type of application and interview that they go through. And I think I was talking to Murph one time about I don't remember what the percentages were, but there's a lot of veterans that come there, and once she starts telling them what the requirements are, they do back out and they say, yeah, maybe I don't have the time commitment for this. Or, I mean, especially the puppy raising part, that's probably the hardest in the first few months that you're going through the training.
Yeah, and just to let you know, if you apply with Stand With Me and you are accepted in the program, you have to actively go through therapy at your local vet center or VA during the whole time you are training. And there is a no alcohol requirement, there's a no drug requirement, obviously.
Yeah, there's a pretty
There's a lot of
big
restrictions that come
contract that goes
while
with
you're
it.
actively training the program that come with being in the program. So
This was eye-opening. I mean, just to hear sort of the do's, the don'ts, the training that goes on. Before we wrap, any final thoughts or a message to veterans or people in general about this whole topic?
only thing I can say is, I want to reiterate, you see a service dog out in public, best thing to do is say, beautiful dog, walk away or ignore them completely because they have a job to do. Service dogs are unconditional. And just like any other dog, they're unconditional, but service dogs are unconditional in a more, I guess, lack of a better word, severe way than a normal dog is, because they are trained to react to you, to react to the way you are acting, to your movements, your emotions, your jittering, your chemical imbalance or whatever. They're trained to do that. And because of that, they are a lifeline for their handler. They are literally a lifeline. And people need to understand that, not just the people in the general public, but prospective people that want to get a service dog know that they're going to be a permanent part of your life. It's a life-changing thing to get a service dog.
And Jeff, before I hear Mel's closing thoughts, you mentioned just what you went through in your life, right, after serving in Iraq and everything that went on. Did having the service dog help you get your life back and fix those relationships that were broken?
It did. She gave me more confidence to be out in public, because before I joined the reserves, I was very outgoing, did a lot of public speaking and everything like that. After I got back, I was so closed in. I didn't go out in public that much. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to interact with in public. And since I've had Abby, she's given me the confidence, not just having her trained to react to me, but along the lines of an ESA, she gives me confidence. She gives me emotional support as well, even though legally emotional support is not a task that you can train for.
It's kind of like a nice byproduct.
Yeah, it's a byproduct of being a service dog, because all service dogs give emotional support, and all dogs give emotional support in some way or another to their person. But regardless, she's given me the confidence to get back out and do things. She's given me my life back.
Changed your life.
Yeah.
Mel, any final thoughts for you?
I think as far as like veterans that might be interested in getting a service dog, just to do the research. There's a lot of organizations out there. There's a lot of scamming organizations out there. Stand With Me obviously isn't a national program, so if you're not within that 60-minute radius of Binghamton, I mean, it doesn't really apply to you, but there are other organizations out there that are nonprofits that provide dogs, and just to do the research on it, learn what the ADA laws are, because you will be challenged. You will be challenged almost every day you go out with your dog. You will get challenged in some way, and and just to understand what the responsibilities are, because again, like we said, it's not necessarily the right therapy for everyone. Like Jeff said, and for me, it's given me my life back. It's given me confidence. It's helped me get back out into the public places I wouldn't be able to do every time. And it's really just given me a sense of worth, and I think you feel now that you're responsible for this life, where not to go into a dark place, but if you have those thoughts of suicide or self-harm, you kind of second think it, because you're like, oh God, well, who would take care of my dog? And that seems so ridiculous sometimes to some people that don't understand that, but it really does keep us going sometimes, where we're like, well, who would take care of Goose, or who would take care of Abby if I wasn't here to do it? And you know how it just is having Metcon, like how you don't want to trust him with everybody.
Yeah.
That's what it's like for us, I don't want to leave my dog. I don't want him to be left alone. So a lot of times it's just that simple of, keeping you going.
And if people want to connect with you guys, with Stand With Me, obviously you're on Facebook. The website is standwithmeorg.com.
Yes. And backing up to what Melissa was talking about, research, also know that all those certification websites, licensing websites and everything.
Don't waste your money.
Don't waste your money because that's all they're out there is to get your money. The piece of paper, that little card they give you, means nothing. American with Disabilities Act says there's no certification for service dogs. There's no licensing for service dogs. It's just all a hoax, and it's a big scam, basically.
When people try to provide you with a registration
Yes.
over in a card, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You don't have legally. You don't have to do that. And yeah, it's just they're great. That's all I can say. And like they're not for everybody, but the ones they are for, it changes their life.
Clearly for you guys in hearing your story. So I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with us. I think the dogs are asleep now.
Yeah, they finally calmed down.
As soon as you're done, I feel like they're just going to turn it on and they'll be ready to go. All right. Anything else? This was eye-opening for me too. Because
Well, thank you for having us,
Yeah.
and thank you for reaching out.
Dispelling
and,
some myths on.
Education is key when it comes to
Yeah.
to
And
the
I think
three types
really
of
just
dogs.
boiling down service dog versus therapy dog versus emotional support animal.
Yep,
Yeah, you cleared up a lot of
it's all
confusion.
education. And that's the thing is they don't want to be educated sometimes, or they're just not key up to it. So.
And I hope too that seeing what you guys go through in the training and the impact these animals have had on your life and change it, hopefully that makes somebody think twice before they try to get the fake vest and take advantage of this stuff that really, people who could really use it. This was very informative. Thanks to the crew again, Jeff and Mel with Stand With Me, Assistance Dog Team Training. And Goose and Abby, are you guys coming back to life? They're still working, so I'm not going to bother them. They were napping.
Yep.
Thank you for being a part of the Ryan Leckey Show. I'll see you next time.
Thanks.